You guys are having a great time. Like I said, I'm having a good time tonight. Let me introduce myself. My name is Scott. I am the Director of Creative Services for the Entertainment Department. What that means is I am responsible for the team that puts together any of the shows that you see in the park, whether it's during the day or for Howl-O-Scream. We maintain the artistic integrity of the shows. We also cast all of the shows, and the costume shop also falls to our team. This time of year, most of my time is spent as the Howl-O-Scream creative director. So if you've been walking through these houses or been scared by any of our zombies or werewolves or anything creeping around on the street, and you think, what sort of sick son of a gun comes up with this sort of stuff, that would probably be me. If it's not me, it at least crossed my desk and I said, yes, that's a great idea, let's move forward with it. So I got a thumbs up from the back already. Got 2 thumbs up, great. 1 from the guy having the affair and the friends. Okay, good. So well, it's that kind of night. So I want to say thank you. I just going to give you a little bit of background. Howl-O-Scream is very important to me. I was part of the team that created it 12 years ago, and I've been involved in some capacity ever since. Last 6 or 7 years, I've been the creative director. And what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to give you a little bit of the behind the scenes of what Howl-O-Scream is all about. We're going to talk about how we put it together each year. I brought some samples of some stuff that you may or may not have seen or noticed out in the park that you can look at up close. And then we'll have time for some questions if I miss anything that you guys just have to know. The interesting thing about Howl-O-Scream is it is kind of a year-round program. It's not all that I do, but at least every day I do something that's Howl-O-Scream related. Where does it all start? Well, it actually starts with research, believe it or not. And you're thinking, what kind of research do you do for a Halloween event? Well, first thing we look at is what has worked. That's why I'm here every night of the event. If I'm not here, or even when I am, I have another member of my team here going around listening to people, talking to people, finding out what is really cool. I like to stand at the exit of a haunted house, and if somebody's talking about something as they come out, that's usually a good sign that it worked. All right? If they're going, well, that was the lamest thing I've ever seen in my life, it's usually a good sign we should get rid of it. All right? It's not brain surgery. We kind of look at a start, stop, continue mentality. Start doing things we're not doing. Stop doing things that we aren't doing but should be, and continue doing things that are working. So it's pretty simple. We spend a lot of time looking at surveys that are taken in the park. We spend a lot of time, or I spend a lot of time looking online to hear what people are saying, either in blogs or on their Facebook pages or Twitter, or I actually spend more time looking online than I do looking in newspapers and magazines, because our target market gets most of their information from the computer. Focus groups. Yes, we do hold very formal focus groups where we invite people in to an office in downtown Tampa, and we sit behind a two-way mirror and we watch them talk about the event. One thing they won't let me do is sneak up behind the two-way mirror halfway through it and just go BAM! Just to scare them. I really would love to do that, but they won't let, or this, They won't let me. We take those very, very seriously and combine all that information and look at upcoming trends as well. Upcoming trends, what movies are coming out? What graphic novels are coming out? What video games are coming out? What is going to be hot in pop culture? This year with zombies, for example, I think we pretty much hit the nail on the head. I walked through Barnes & Noble the other day, and every single section of Barnes & Noble had a book about zombies. There was... Speaking of zombies, here they are now. There was a book in the children's section about baby zombies. There was a book in the teen section or tween section about zombies. How to survive a zombie apocalypse. How to cook things, honest to God, how to cook things that look like brains in the cooking section. So there was a book about zombies everywhere. So I think we kind of hit the nail on the head there. That was kind of the perfect storm. And then, of course, speaking of storms, brainstorming. Bringing in those people that are just equally as crazy and wacky as my team, and we sit in a room and come up with a whole bunch of what-ifs. And hopefully we are able to make those into reality. In addition to brainstorming, we spend a lot of time looking at concept images. What kinds of pictures we could use to help tell stories. These are some of the concept images that we used this year. This one, for example, is an animation that sits in our Ultimate Gamble Vampire Casino. It's in the kitchen. And it's an animation, his head kind of looks back and forth, and then he spits. It's called It's Not Brain Surgery. It's not real spit, by the way. You haven't been there yet? You'll see it. Look for it, it's in the kitchen.
We'll keep an eye out.
Thanks.
Yes.
All right, the one on the other side is actually Edgar Allan Poe. Now, I understand that there's some other folks who are doing a haunted house about Edgar Allan Poe. Who knew? But we decided that instead of actually doing a literal translation, we wanted to do a more dreamlike or nightmarish version of Edgar Allan Poe. We didn't want it to be realistic. So instead of using a photograph, we're actually using a painting. And this image actually shows up in the house itself. In the Telltale Heart Room, all of the framed portraits are of Edgar Allan Poe. Now the picture in the middle is kind of one of the luckiest finds we've had. This is a real mortuary. It's condemned now, but it's a real mortuary in the UK. And I wanted something that looked kind of creepy like a mortuary that had really interesting architectural qualities or value. And so remember that picture when we get to Zombie Mortuary and we start talking about some of the design stuff. Now comes the boring stuff that I have to do. It's called the venue flow. Dun, 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 dun. Venue flow is basically the script for each haunted house. This is the format that we use. It's got multiple columns, one for the room, a narrative of what we do, seating and special effects, lighting, audio, costumes, makeup and props, and cast. This one page that you see here is the cue line for Zombie Mortuary. So it's literally before you even get into the house. That's what we've written. When you get into the house, obviously the more complex rooms take more pages. A full haunted house venue flow is about 25 to 30 pages long, all in 10-point font. It is, really. Somebody just yes, it is. Then we start looking at pictures. We work with a great artist team, headed up by a guy by the name of Keith Kaminsky out of California. Keith does the ground plans and the frontal elevations for all of our haunted houses. This is the ground plan for Zombie Mortuary. Basically what this shows us is, will everything we want to do fit in the building that we have, first off. Secondly, it shows us, kind of how we can get guests to twist and turn their way through a haunted house. More importantly for us, from a practical standpoint, it shows us that our houses can indeed meet all of our ADA requirements. All of our houses can be navigated through it with a standard wheelchair. So all of our pathways are at least 44 inches wide, all of our doorways are at least 36 inches wide. Nothing is shorter than 6'8" unless there's a bypass. So we want to make certain that everybody who wants to experience our houses can experience our houses. Now you notice there's some letters and some numbers up there. Each one of the numbers corresponds to the room number in the venue flow. Each one of the letters is an actual separate scare position. It goes through BB, so I'll let you do the math as to how many scare positions there are in Zombie Mortuary. Remember that? Remember that picture? This is Keith's frontal elevation. This is the drawing of the actual house once you get inside the house. All right. There's zombies walking up and down on either side, and lots of fog in there, so it might not look exactly like that when you walk in. But we took that concept image and came up with this frontal elevation. In the design process, Keith actually puts together an entire book of all of the drawings and pictures of each one of the rooms. That's what this is right here. This is what we use when we go out and bid this out to have people build it for us. All right. Normally, this is completely insider stuff and we don't let anybody see it. I will leave this up here, so if you want to come up and thumb through it after I'm done talking, please feel free to do so. The only thing I do ask is that you don't photograph what's inside this book. All right, that's my only. You can take pictures of everything else, just not what's inside this book. Okay. In addition to the scenic design, we also have some areas that if we're doing it right, you never really notice. Things like lighting, audio, and atmospheric. Lighting, making you look where we want you to look, or creating some funky effect. We use a lot of theatrical lighting. We use some LED lighting. We use pretty much any lighting we can get away with. What people forget about are things like what we call practicals. Things like this little candle here. Now, this particular candle is the same as you might find in any card store, I guess, except this one's actually wax. And it is an LED light that you can see sort of flickering in there. The reason we use real wax ones is sometimes we want to melt them down to make them look older. They also have a very realistic sort of glow to them. If you put a whole bunch of them in the same room, you actually smell them. They smell like candles. The other cool thing is you can blow them out. Kind of like that. Of course, you have to use a little button on the bottom to make that happen. But these are all battery powered. So when you walk into a haunted house and you see like 20 or 30 or 50 candles flickering, at the beginning of the night, one of our technicians had to go through and push that little blue button on the bottom of each one of them and set them up. And each weekend they have to replace all the batteries. So it does take some time, but it creates a very strong effect. Audio. What most people never notice in a haunted house is what they're hearing. But it helps create an atmosphere. It helps create some sort of creepiness. Sometimes it's music, sometimes it's voices. This year we set a new record for the most number of individual audio tracks in a single haunted house. And that is 32. 32 for Nevermore. Some of them are vocal tracks of voices reciting the works of Edgar Allan Poe. Some of them are music, some of them are screams. My personal favorite was an accident. If you walk into the statue room, there's a little girl's laugh. That's not it, but there's a little girl's laugh that is pretty subtle. You don't hear it very often, but every now and then you hear this little girl kind of go. And what ended up happening was, when we were recording some of the other stuff, one of the voiceover people we were using had a laugh that sounded like a little girl. She giggled when we were listening to the tracks. I went, I want that. I want to put that in there somewhere. Because it's just kind of creepy. I wanted the image of perhaps there's a little girl roaming around those statues. And the neat thing is you see a little girl in the next room. So that was very intentional. Probably one of my favorite audio stories, if you've been through Death Row Vengeance, Death Row Vengeance has an animation in it of a guy vomiting in a barrel. We've used this in several haunted houses in the past. And the sound that goes along with that, we had the worst trouble finding. Because I wanted something that sounded like somebody really vomiting. And when our audio designer came to us, he had about 5 different samples, and I went, these all sound kind of goofy. They all sound kind of kiddish and childish. And he said, well, Scott, what do you want? And I said, I want something that sounds like this. He grabbed me and said, great, here. For the next half hour, I was sitting in a studio with a microphone in front of me going, let me warn you, when you pretend to vomit for 30 minutes, you come darn close to making the real thing happen. But if you do, when you do go through Death Row Vengeance and you hear the guy vomiting, just go, hey, that's Scott. Because it is me. Atmospheric. Most of this is fog. Most of atmospheric is fog. You'll see a lot of fog around the park. You'll see a lot of fog in a lot of the haunted houses. The fog helps us not only isolate people, but it also makes it so that you can see some of our lighting better, like on the far picture. A type of atmospheric a lot of people don't think about is scent. We use scent machines in a lot of our haunted houses. You smelled the smoked turkey legs. Yeah, well, that was actually by the smoked turkey legs. I wanted to point that out. That's real smoked turkey legs.
I didn't know I said that.
Oh, that's okay. Outside voice. Wait a minute. That's fine. I do it all the time. Like, for example, in Zombie Mortuary, there are 3 different scent machines in Zombie Mortuary. One of them, when you walk into the viewing room and are surrounded by all the dead flowers, there's one that's making the scent of roses. So you actually smell roses when you walk into the viewing room. The next one is when you walk into the crematorium. There is a burning scent in there. It's actually the smell of bacon. When you walk in and you smell that, people either go, "Ooh, it smells like he's burning," or, "Hey, let's go to Denny's after this." So either way, it creates an emotional response. And the third one is actually the smell of moss or underground dirt when you walk into the grave and you look up and you see the tombstone over your head. So there are things that you may not notice if you're not paying attention, but they do help create a more layered or dimensional scene. So we try to incorporate those whenever we can. Here's what everybody wants to talk about around Halloween. Costumes and makeup. I brought some samples, just a couple of samples of the costumes here, just to put things into perspective. It takes 640 people to make all of our haunted houses and roaming monsters and zombies come to life each night. 640 individuals. Each one of them have between 2 and 10 costume pieces. So just imagine not only building all of these things, but maintaining them throughout the course of the event. They all have to be washable. They all have to be cleanable in some format or another. The first one, let's talk about this one first. We have an example of one of our zombie clowns. Yes, this is clean, despite the way it looks. We actually build them so that they look like real costumes, and then we distress them. Some of this is airbrushed on, some of it is caked on. It's got a little bit of hot glue and great stuff up here on the hat to give it some texture. Again, I will leave these up here so you can look at them up close. You heard me use the phrase great stuff. Great stuff is a pretty common household thing. It's an expanding foam pipe insulation. It comes out of the can, and you spray it in around the pipes, and it expands to fill the area to keep them insulated. It works great for costumes. Here's a great example of the great stuff to create zombie bumps. The texture that you see here coming out of the costume or through the costume, as the case may be, is just a little blob of that great stuff. and it expands, and then you can add paint to it, and you can use it to make anything from entrails to radiated zombies to, if you put it on and then rub a wire brush over it and let it expand, it looks like drips of blood. It's very cool. Very cool stuff. In addition to the costumes, makeup is a huge part of what we do. And this year we have made some great strides forward in what we do with our makeup. We use every kind of makeup you can imagine. We use standard theatrical makeup like you would in a play. We use airbrush. Here's just an example of our airbrush makeup, like our zombie pinups up at the front of the park. Airbrush creates almost a cartoonish look, but it does give you some very smooth blending. We also use, like I said, standard theatrical makeup in conjunction with some of our prosthetic pieces. This open sore was done with this. These are called watermelons. These are cast out of a liquid, they dry, and you do not need glue to put them on your face. You use rubbing alcohol on the back, they dissolve just a little bit, pop them on your face, and then around the edges you can take a sponge and just kind of blend it out so that it literally blends into your face. I have some samples of these that I'll be more than happy to... And now it's time for an instrumental break. No worries. I'll pass these around. You can take a look at them. These are the, in years past, we've used big, thick latex pieces, but you can always see the line around those, so they look kind of fake. The nice thing about these is they look quite realistic when they're applied, and they almost disappear and fade into the skin. You may notice none of them have any color added to them. That's so that you can use makeup to make them match anybody's skin tone. So it matches everybody's skin tone that we put them on based on the makeup that we put around it. You notice that we use a lot of blood at HowlOScream. In fact, we use 3 different kinds of blood. I brought samples of all 3 of them here. We have what's called, now here's where I get to be geeky about blood. We have what's called splatter or drip blood. It's used to create the illusion of a fresh wound. As you can see, it's very runny. It's also very red. It kind of looks like an immediate ouch. We use this for things like a little drop around the eye or coming out of the nose, corner of the mouth, that kind of thing. You don't use a ton of it because it gets to be really messy and kind of sticky. The middle kind of blood that we use is a little bit darker and a little bit thicker. I just call it darker and thicker blood. I'm sure it has a real name, but I don't know what it is. So. But this makes a wound look a little bit deeper, a little bit older. You can see that it runs a little bit less. And then my favorite is a blood gel. Now the blood gel, as the name suggests, is the thickest. It's almost the same consistency as cupcake frosting. And tastes just about the same. No, it doesn't. Bad choice. But it does show you that all of our blood products are edible. They won't hurt you in any way, shape, or form. If you are looking to create some blood for a party at home, you know, like say for example you're going to go to a Halloween party and you want to put just a little blood capsule in the back of your mouth until about halfway through the party and then bite into it and spit blood out onto your chest. It's really fun, especially if it's not a costume party. But if you want to make your own blood at home, let me give you my own private blood recipe. All right? Start with dark corn syrup, add about 5 drops of red food coloring, and just a little bit of cocoa powder. And you're probably thinking, why the cocoa powder? I just like chocolate. No, what the cocoa powder does is it makes it a little bit less translucent, and it makes it look a little bit more coagulated. And it does make it taste better, so if you're putting it in and around your mouth, it's kind of fun. Do be very careful, however, if you're going to an outdoor party, because fake blood like that draws insects like you wouldn't believe. So just be kind of careful of that. That is the voice of experience. In addition to that, we also do some rather significant masks. This is our first year where we have eliminated all latex masks from our event. All of our masks are made of silicone. Now what? And they are very blinding, apparently. No, and the silicone, we like to use the silicone mainly because it looks more realistic or creepier. It does move a little bit better. It also eliminates any allergy problems because there are people who are allergic to latex. The downside is the masks are a little more fragile. They don't require any adhesive to put them on, but I will give you an example of what it looks like. Well, There we go. Now the nice thing about this is it actually moves. I think I blinked. Anyway,
You're good.
Okay. It looks like a full prosthetic that took 4 or 5 hours.
It's not going. Let me try again. There we go.
Okay, but I broke another one. It looks like something that would take for like film makeup about 4 or 5 hours to put on. Actually, it just pops on. If I were going to use this in the park, I would black out around my mouth, so you wouldn't see my mouth underneath. I'd black out around the eyes. I'll just keep going. Okay. I'd black out around the eyes, so you wouldn't be able to see that my skin underneath, and I'd be able to get right up in people's faces, and it looks like this hideous sort of decaying zombie. The nice thing about this is once the performer goes on break, all they have to do is pop it off. They can dip it in cold water. It immediately loses all of its heat. You can put it on, and it feels very comfortable and almost refreshing when you put it back on. All right? So all of the masks that you see in our event this year are built. We have a team of 6 that work in silicone. When I say a team of 6, the truth is most of them are done by one guy. But all of the masks that are built off of life casts of our team's faces. So if you look real close at most of our masks, you can recognize whose face they were cast from. I will pass this around. Please feel free to look at it, touch it. Please don't take it off of the head and put it on your face, because it was just on my face and that would be gross. More so for you than for me, so I'm just warning you ahead of time. You're welcome. So in addition to all of that stuff, we do also have fangs that we use. For vampires, we use what are called cap fangs. They just kind of pop over your teeth. These are zombie teeth. These are more like veneers. They fit in front of your teeth. It's true. They're very thin. And they fit right in front of your teeth. You use a low melt plastic behind them. Put it in front of your teeth. Let the plastic cool, and you can pop them in and out all night long. Actually, for up to several months. I'll pass these around too, so you can take a look at those. There we go. We do not make these. We do purchase these. They're from a company called Dental Distortions. We do not make them. I did not put that in my mouth, I promise you. No, what you do is you use these low melt plastic beads, put them in hot water, line the back of the veneer, lay it in front of your teeth. By the time the plastic cools, it makes a perfect mold that you can just set in and pull out. We do also use fake nails at various times, just like fake nails that you might have, except these are a little grodier. Not exactly like fake nails, you might be wearing it right now, but then comes to the most important part of any haunted attraction, and that is the cast. I'm a firm believer that people scare people. And like I mentioned earlier, it takes 640 people each night to make this event come to life from a performer standpoint. We hire an additional 125 to 150 so that if there are call-ins or people have emergencies outside of here, we can keep all of those positions filled. All right. The reason we have that extra 120, or the way we work with the extra 125, is we kind of have them all come in, and they're on the bench, just waiting to be called into play. And when they get an assignment, they get their makeup done, costume done, and whisked out to the haunted house or roaming court that they belong in. The age of our performers ranges from 18, because we don't hire anyone under the age of 18, to 72. 72 is our current oldest performer. We have had older in the past. But that is, I'm sorry?
I saw him.
You saw him? Which is scary because it's a her. But
that's not good for makeup.
Oh, good. Okay, very good. That's what the makeup is. That's excellent. We do have 3 people that have been with us all 12 years as performers, and we're very, very proud to keep them coming back. They come from pretty much every background you can imagine. Oddly enough, we do have a lot of students and a lot of teachers. Apparently, these are 2 groups that have a lot of things to work out. I don't know. But the most interesting story for me was we did have a city council, or I'm sorry, a county commissioner who was working Howl-O-Scream one year, and he said, "I'll do anything you want as long as I can wear a mask." He didn't want to be recognized as a county commissioner working Howl-O-Scream, so I thought that was kind of funny. He enjoyed it so much he was still doing it, but he was hiding behind a mask in order to make it happen. Like I said, our casting is a huge and a very important part of the whole process. It starts in July. This year it started July 8th, which happens to be my birthday, that's why I remember it.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. 6 months ago. July, it starts in July. The first weekend is what we call the reunion auditions, where people actually return. If they've worked with us before, they get the first shot to audition. We do 3 more weekends and we're fully cast. So it's we hire about between 800 and 900 people total. So it moves very, very quickly, and we get a lot of people in very, very fast. That's really the whole presentation. Is there anything you guys would like to know more about? Anything I can answer for you? Yes?
Do you have any clowns?
Do we have any clowns? Right now, yes, we do.
Where?
Somewhere in the park. I honestly don't know. They are, but don't panic, they're zombie clowns.
I don't like clowns.
I don't think they like you either, but no. They are roaming around. I do not know exactly. So just be prepared. Be prepared. Any other questions? Guys, I'm going to stick around if you do have any questions you want to ask me close and personal. I just want to thank you all for being here tonight. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Please, if you're having fun, let everybody know. And if you're not, just keep your mouth shut. Thank you all very, very much. Have a great night.